Bonjour tout le monde and bienvenue to French Crawl. So the Paris Olympics are over. It was a pretty amazing time, and I wanted to recap, go through kind of each day, what I saw, what I did. I was able to have the privilege of going to the opening ceremony, the closing ceremonies, and also about 26 competitions. So without further ado, c'est parti. So on July 24th, that was 2 days before the opening ceremonies, and that was day -2. So I was actually down in Marseille at the Velodrome to watch men's soccer. It was US against France. The atmosphere out there was incredible. A lot of people pre-gaming at the restaurants, at the bars around the stadium, and then there's tons of food trucks, tons of people out just sitting, enjoying themselves before the match. I'd imagine this is just how match day is in Marseille for their soccer team. I was curious about getting there, and there was just a lot of volunteers out there, a lot of people giving information, directing traffic, showing people where to go, which was great. And then getting through security was pretty straightforward. They were checking bags, looking to see what you had. Otherwise, you could bring food in, you could bring drinks in. And then once inside, food-wise, they had not a lot of things, but what I learned was in France, alcohol at sporting events is outlawed, and so you have to make a petition to serve alcohol at sporting events. And so with the Olympics, they decided that they were not going to apply for the permit. So all the venues had 0% beer, and that was going to be for the whole games. As for the match itself, France was just too strong. They destroyed the US 3-0. The US did have their chances, but they just could not capitalize when they had their shots.
Let's go, let's go.
It wasn't great that we lost, but at the same time, it was pretty fun just because of the home crowd. And France, obviously, they went on to the finals to lose and get silver, while the US actually did make it out of group play and got knocked out in the quarterfinals. On the way back, I stopped by this market to grab a drink because I was pretty thirsty. And I kind of realized like halfway through it that this place had a bunch of specialty items because there were different flavors of things, and just from things were from different countries. And then they had these bars of Snickers that were like different flavors that I had never seen before. It was like passion fruit and berry and lime. I took one just to try it. I took the passion fruit one. I went to the counter and I talked to French to the guy who was there, and I was like, hey, I've never seen this flavor before. And he was like, oh, you know, Snickers is US. And I was like, yeah, Snickers is US, but these flavors are not in the US. And so he looked at it and realized, oh, looked like it was Portuguese. We kind of had a laugh about that. And then he looked at my shirt and saw how I was wearing US gear and my US hat. And so he was like, hey, sorry about the match tonight. And I was like, I was kind of laughing. I was like, don't worry about it. France is too strong. That's why they're the favorites at the Olympics for a reason. They had a really good squad. He was like, what do you think of the stadium? And I was like, great stadium, great atmosphere, really enjoyed it. I asked him, like, how's Marseille's team? And at that point, he kind of like, shoulders kind of slumped, and he went into like a little rant in French that I couldn't really follow. But then I kind of understood the gist of it, and I was like, je comprends, c'est la tradition. And then he pointed at me, and he was like, yes, exactly. And so we had a good laugh about that, and I was just kind of like, you know, understood where he's coming from. It's like, it's your home team, you support them no matter what. And I remember being at the stadium and you know, seeing pictures of all the fans with their arms around each other in unity. And I was just like, I totally get that. supporting some really bad teams over the years as well. And I feel like Marseille, in a lot of ways, it's kind of like a second city in France in terms of reputation. And so I think maybe that aspect of it was kind of interesting to me too, that they're kind of the underdog, right? So, but I really liked it, really enjoyed being there. It reminded me of like, at times, San Fran or Lisbon, just because of, I think, the water and the layout and the hills in the city as well. So really enjoyed my time in Marseille and the atmosphere at the stadium. On July 25th, that was day -1, one day from the opening ceremony. So I made my way back to Paris for Rugby Sevens at Stade de France. So that was the first time for me going out to Stade de France. It's a beautiful venue. Getting out there, there was a checkpoint by security to check everyone's bags before you even got to the stadium. And so once you got into the stadium, it was pretty easy. They just let you go through any gates, and then they checked your bag one more time. Atmosphere was amazing. It was totally packed. America played that night as well, but they didn't do so well. France played, and the crowd went berserk for their game. Antoine Dupont, the French superstar, he did not play that match, but it was still electric. The other match that was memorable was Fiji against Ireland, and they went into extra time, and by the end of it, those guys just had nothing in the tank, and they were just like laid out, and it was really impressive to watch and just kind of see that level of competition. It was my first time watching Rugby Sevens, so there was a gentleman from the UK next to me who kind of explained the game to me, explained the rules, and just kind of what was going on. And it's basically half the number of players covering the same amount of field. So because of that, there's just more opportunities for breakout run because people are covering more space. Whereas if you could imagine, if there's double the amount of players on the field, it's really hard to advance the ball. But it's just really physical, it's action-packed, it's 14, 15 minutes per match. It went by pretty quick, and it was just nonstop action. And so I really enjoyed it, just coming from America and not being really exposed to that sport. Would really look forward to watching it again at some point. One of the funny things that evening was the fact that the PA announcer played Sweet Caroline to the crowd. When they played it, I was just like, am I at a Red Sox game? Because it was just hilarious to me. But I could see it. It's pretty catchy. It's pretty fun. But for the most part, the crowd mumbled around the chorus. And then there was a great surprise at the end. The Olympic flame actually made an appearance at the stadium. And they had a couple of athletes who had that honor of bringing the torch, that relay, to the stadium, which was going to be the final stop before the opening ceremonies the next evening. So it was cool to see them up above and to see the flame there in person. And so that really capped off a really memorable night at Stade de France. So then on July 26th, that was D-Day, opening ceremonies. So I made my way out to the left bank. It was pretty dead out there, pretty quiet. A lot of restaurants, a lot of places were just closed. I don't think they wanted to deal with the security that day, blocking off things. And then a lot of places ran out of food as well. So I was looking for food and ended up just having to grab some sandwiches from the grocery store. I know there are other points that had a huge line. It took a while for people to get in, but fortunately for us, for my area, it went pretty quickly.
C'est Tribune B?
Yeah, the tunnel, yes, and after B, after.
OK, d'accord.
And once I got through, I got on the bridge, and it was just an awesome view looking directly at Notre Dame.
La nouvelle, non seulement on est là à Paris avant cette cérémonie d'ouverture, mais on sera peut-être aussi dans les Alpes en 2030.
One of the cool things that day was, as I was going to my seat, there was a lot of people taking pictures and just hanging out before the event started. And there was this couple, and this guy, he had a Seoul 1988 Olympic shirt on. And I walked up to him just to say, hey, I really love that shirt because that was the first Olympics that I remembered watching. And so we kind of chatted a little bit in the English that they knew. Told him I had been to Korea, to the baseball stadium there, Jamsil Stadium. They talked about LA and wanting to go to LA as well. And so had a nice convo, threw out a little bit of Korean that I knew, thanks and goodbye, which kind of drew a laugh. Just really nice to chat with some people out there. And then at the seats, chatted with a few people around me. Some people were local, just like close by. And then woman next to me was from Annecy, which is where the animation festival happens, which I knew about because I've had friends go to that festival because they worked on projects there. And then there was a young lady from Greece, guy from the Dominican, from Italy, from Puerto Rico, Costa Rica. So it was pretty fun. Everyone was just cheering on each other's countries and just having a really great time. Weather was a big factor. Everyone had umbrellas and were prepared with ponchos and things like that. But you couldn't leave there unscathed with the rain there that night. But the volunteers made it really fun. They were just hyping up the crowd, they were dancing, they were just kind of like keeping the energy up and making the best of the situation. So from our vantage point, we saw the boat parade go by, all the different nations. Really fun, really great to see the US. When it went by, it was a huge contingency. France as well, so those drew really big applauses. A lot of noise, a lot of fanfare for that. And then we had the dancers doing the can-can over by the side of the Seine, which people were kind of commenting how unsynchronized they were, but it was pretty fun. And then they had a big screen, so you could keep track of what was going on and watch the ceremony as well. By the night's end, Céline came out and totally knocked it out of the park. It wasn't until later where I understood, what she's been going through medically, and I thought that was pretty amazing of her to be able to go out there and give that kind of performance. And I thought the song was a great song choice. And from where we were, they had the audio coming through. So unfortunately, it was so cloudy that we couldn't see the Eiffel Tower from there, but we could see the lights through the cloud cover. And then later on, with the flame and the unveiling of the flame and the balloon going up in the sky, we could also see kind of the light coming from that direction. If it was a clear night, it would have been really cool because we would have been able to see all that happening from our vantage point. But because of it, it was what it was. So it was pretty ambitious, but it was a success by the end of the night. So it's pretty fun. There was just a lot of people, a lot of good energy out and about after the opening ceremonies, people trying to get home before the subways closed. So otherwise, fun night, fun event, very memorable, and great way to kick off the Olympic Games. On July 27th, it was day one of the Olympic Games. And so I went out to Eiffel Tower Stadium where beach volleyball was being played. And this was actually one of the first tickets I bought during the release that they had. I chose it specifically for the venue, knowing that it was going to be kind of crazy for them to set up an arena right in front of the Eiffel Tower, and it was. The weather continued to be wet. It was drizzly at times. The DJ that was running that event was amazing. They were pumping music after pretty much every point. It was pretty lively, pretty energetic. And so the matches, there was 2 matches.
Allez.
I had the 6 o'clock evening time slot, so it was from 6 to 8, knowing that sunset here was around 9 o'clock here in the summertime. And so I knew whoever had night sessions for beach volleyball, it was just gonna be crazy with the light show and just the lighting in general. So seeing pictures of that, that was pretty cool to see. Also leaving the event, one of the funny things I saw was that at the concessions, they had a yogurt stand, which I thought this was very, very local, very true to France's love of yogurt. My friend, she was just like, yeah, we love yogurt. It was just funny to me, observation-wise, as an American, knowing that never in like a bazillion years will we see a yogurt stand at a sporting event. Or maybe there is, I don't know. So after beach volleyball, we decided to go out and see the Flame, which was being housed over at the Tuileries garden. And everyone was enjoying themselves, and then seeing the balloon itself was just a pretty crazy sight, and really enjoying that. The balloon actually lifted up later on at around 10 o'clock. Seeing it online on social media, it was just a really surreal sight to see it. And I thought it was so great. The days after, the Musée d'Orsay and other publications were talking about the history of it and how the inventors and how they actually launched the balloon from that same site. And so the thinking behind it all, the nod to the past, and also the technology they came up with to create this balloon that didn't use any gas. It was with water and light, and LED lights, and just vaporized water to create this effect of fire. Some people were traditionalists and they wanted just the torch, wanted a fire to keep going, but I thought this was a fun way. And for it to lift up in the air, I thought was great because later on, you could just see it from various parts of the city, from the Seine. I think the first feeling I had when I went there to see it was just like, I felt like a kid. It's a balloon. Thought of like the Red Balloon, the film from when I was a kid, from France. And it's just really playful. And I think that's just kind of what happened. It just made everyone feel like a kid again, which I thought was great. And so on July 28th, second day of the Olympics, that was a Sunday starting the second week, I went up to Rio to watch Team USA take on Serbia in men's basketball. They played at Pierre du Stadium. I talked to a French guy later on. He explained it's actually a soccer stadium. That's why it was so big. And the setup was they had a curtain blocking off half the stadium, which then reminded me of the Alamo Dome. The atmosphere there was really great outside. The thing that was kind of crazy to me was the amount of people who were wearing NBA jerseys, like all types of teams. A lot of Steph Curry's, a lot of LeBron James's, pretty much every era of his career. So it was really impressive and kind of threw me off because I wanted to start conversations and talk to people in English. But then I realized most of them were French people who were wearing the NBA jerseys. And so I kind of take for granted how big the game has grown internationally. And then of course, with Joker there, a lot of Serbian fans, a lot of Serbian flags. And met a guy who had some pretty funny signs, one of LeBron crying. So he posed for me to take a photo with it. The game was pretty close most of the way until KD pretty much took over and just went on fire. The guy didn't miss. Serbia played really tough. But by the end of the game, Team USA had really pulled away and had a pretty comfortable lead by the end of it. It really showcased how far the NBA's influence has gone. And just so many fans, so many people wearing jerseys. It's really cool to see. And then on top of it, being able to watch LeBron, Steph, KD play together on a team for the first time. I was able to watch them during the 2017 finals in Cleveland, and then to be able to see them now, kind of towards the end of their careers, to be able to play together like this was really great privilege just to see them competing for a medal for their country this way.
What are you trying to ask for? Elle a dit cacahuètes. Cacahuètes, c'est peanuts. Peanut butter. Peanuts. Cacahuètes. Yeah, ouais, pas de souci.
So then on July 29th, day 3 of the Olympics, I was still in Lille because I was going to watch Team USA's women's team take on Japan in the evening match. And so that match didn't take place until I think 9 o'clock at night, so it's pretty late. So I just hung out in Lille. I know it's a university town, and from the time I did have there, it looked pretty nice and it looked pretty fun. The match itself, Japan put up a great fight. They were really scrappy. They kept the game close early on. But Team USA just had too much talent. And they pulled away with a huge victory by the end of the night. And so I had met a family from Newcastle, from the UK, and it was really fun talking with them as well. They had 2 young boys, and they told me how excited they were to visit the Nike store in New York because they were one of the first ones to try on Sabrina Ionescu's shoes back then, her first pair of shoes from Nike. And it just made me really think about just how popular the women's game has become. For these 2 boys to talk about how excited they were to try on her shoes at that point. And she made an appearance in that game, of course, hit a couple threes or more than that. And they got really excited about it, so it was really fun to see that. And then that evening, I was getting out. There were several fans from America, and we were all kind of chatting, and I was listening to them. And some of them were just talking about how they came alone. I met a lot of people doing that. They just came because they were like, I can't really depend on my friends or whoever to try to go to the Olympics with me. I'm just gonna go and I'm just gonna enjoy myself. And this one guy, he was from Atlanta. He was hilarious. He had his bag because he was gonna take the night bus back to Paris to fly out in the morning back to Atlanta. And so the guy basically brought his carry-on to the stadium. I was like, how'd you get it? How'd you even get your bag inside? And he basically was like, I told them they could take my bag or not, because I'm not gonna take it. I'm gonna go watch the game. So it was funny. They let him take the bag in and he was able to get back home.
Make sure you get home safe and join us here again tomorrow.
As much as I can bring us together that way, that's what I try to do. I come from neighborhoods where people don't even talk to each other. So much hate in the world too. When people get to start laughing and joking for the game of ball, it's cool to me. So it get me emotional, dog. It's crazy to see it. Somebody say travel so long to come see their favorite player play in the Olympics. They spend their money, they bring their whole family. Like, it's just dope to me. The game just saved my life, so it brought me and my family out of a lot of bullshit, so I'm just like grateful for it. For real.
Props to that guy making it out to the Olympics and seeing it for himself. So on July 30th, day 4 of the Olympics, I went back down to Paris to watch women's handball. And this was being played at South Paris Arena. It's a huge complex which was hosting various events. And for handball, I stepped into the arena and I thought I stepped into Eurovision. There were flags flying, the music was blaring, and France was playing that night, so you just knew that it was going to be a raucous crowd, home team, and they were just going to be pumped. They played Brazil that night. It was my first time watching handball live. I've seen it on TV. It's like hockey, a little bit of basketball just because they have to dribble it, but really physical, really fast-paced, fun to watch live. One of my professors loves handball, so she would tell me about it. And it's a really popular sport there, and they do really well. They medal, usually. France beat Brazil that evening, to the delight of the crowd. And then the nightcap was Denmark against Sweden. Denmark won that match. So handball was great, really fun. So at halftime, the announcer played Champs-Élysées, which was the first time I had heard it at a match, but it would be the first of many. And I think a lot of Americans now are familiar with it because they have the cover that's done by Pamplemousse on those Airbnb commercials.
Oh, Champs-Élysées.
But they played the original by Joe Dassin, so that was really fun as well. So on August 31st, day 5 of the Olympics, I went down to Roland Garros for tennis. And this one was a big one for me, just because when I grew up, that epic match between Michael Chang and Yvonne Lendl in 1989 at the French Open really was what inspired me to pick up a racket, I think, like a lot of other kids in the US. I know for me, as an Asian American, seeing someone like that do what he did by winning the French Open and that match in general really inspired me as a kid to participate in sports. And so being able to go there was just one of those bucket list items for me, not having gone to the French Open, but being able to go here at the Olympics. And on that day at center court, I watched Novak Djokovic play against Dominic Kofor. Novak defeated Dominic. It was a really hot day. Novak went on to win the gold medal here at the Olympics, and for him, he talked about how it was basically like the biggest achievement of his career, which said a lot about how far tennis has gone at the Olympics. And for him, it was his 5th try as well. So after that match, I went out to go and watch Coco golf on the open courts with her doubles partner, Jessica Agula, and they played against the Czech Republic. It was sweltering out there. I didn't last too long for that match. I actually went and looked for shade and found that they had the torch out there. And honestly, when I held that thing, I thought to myself, if they were ever to ask me to hold that torch, I probably would have asked for like a baby stroller or something to push that thing around, because it was pretty heavy. It was like holding a sack of potatoes. So I left Roland Garros trying to look for a cooler place to hang out, and ran into a Carrefour about a block away and hung out in the seafood department because that was like the coldest place in the shop. And after that, I walked out to the metro and saw this bakery and stopped in because it looked really cool. And I saw that they had a pain au chocolat, but they called it a chocolatine, which was pretty funny to me because usually there's a debate depending on the part of France you're from, whether or not you call it a pain au chocolat, which is what we know as the croissant with chocolate in it, or a chocolatine, which I learned people in the Southwest call it that. I told the people I rented from about it, the family, and they cracked up. They were like, who in Paris is gonna call a pain au chocolat a chocolatine? And I was like, I don't know. Maybe they're not from here. So it's just kind of funny. And if you've been here during this time, Krispy Kreme has advertisements in the subway, and they've got a campaign going on with their donut. And one of the headlines that they had was pain au choc ou chocolatine. And they have a picture of their donut, their glazed donut, and they're like, end of the debate. So then later that evening, I went out to Porte de la Chapelle, which is in northern Paris, for badminton. For badminton, there was a lot going on. There were 3 courts with matches going on in all of them. There was doubles, there was singles play, and the place was packed. And it was just really impressive for me to see that every event I was attending was really well attended. And it was pretty insane seeing top-level badminton play and just how quick, how fast, kind of ridiculous the play was. So that was really fun to watch in person and see in person. And then typically when the Olympics roll around, there's this clip of Mary Carrillo doing a rant on badminton that resurfaces where she was just supposed to talk about the technicalities of badminton, and then goes into this rant about her family, the kids, and just what happens when you play badminton at home.
But I've played a lot of badminton with my kids. By the 7th shot, this thing's up in the tree, okay? So then what does your kid do? She says, Mommy, I'll get it down, throws a racket up in the tree. Now your racket's up in the tree. She said, don't worry, I'll get that down.
And it's just really funny. So check that out if you have time and just want to have a laugh. So then on August 1st, day 6 of the Olympics, I went up to the Aquatics Center to watch men's water polo. It was Team USA against Greece.
Moments away at the start of the game. It's into the 2-meter spot. And the first shot, fires out.
Now, this match was pretty close throughout. US actually had a lead in the second half.
Like that race for the rebound.
But Greece pulled away by the end and won the match. was really a fun atmosphere. A lot of Greek fans, a lot of fans from the US as well. And Team USA actually went on to win bronze, which was great in the tournament. And the match after was Spain against Serbia, and Spain actually beat Serbia. Serbia went on to win gold for the third straight Olympics. They are a dynasty. So it's really cool to see them as well in action. The interesting thing about the Aquatics Center that they bid for was supposed to host swimming. The original bid cost around 70 million euros. Fast forward, they lost out on the 2008, 2012 Olympics, and then things got kind of serious later on when they felt like they were going to win the bid. And so the price of the swim facility went up to like 260 million euros. In trying to cut back, they decided to go with a lower bid, which then resulted in a facility which only sat 5,000 people. And it ended up being too small to host the swimming event, so they had to move it to La Défense. And so moving forward, they won't be able to host any swim championships at this center. The other part of it was they chose to build it across from Stade de France in Saint-Denis. Right across from it is the Stade de France, just back here, which is one of the poorest areas in Paris. And so the thinking behind it was to provide more opportunities for people in that area to have access to swimming, because half of the population, by the time they reach 12, don't know how to swim. It's great that they do have this facility out in that area and servicing it, but at the same time, the fact that they went with a lower bid to try to cut costs and resulting in this smaller facility, which did not host swimming at all. The Aquatic Center hosted artistic swimming, diving, and water polo. So after water polo, I went to Park of Nations. This was an area where different countries had their own space to welcome guests, introduce them to their culture, food, and just activities. And this was being held over at Parc de la Villette, which is the third largest park in Paris. It's in the northeastern part of the city. And I stopped by India House. It was the first time the country had a house at the Olympics. They had food, they had activities, they had artisans, they had shops, and it was just really fun to go and check it out. And then I went to Club France. So they had this amazing space, huge grounds. It's only €5 to get in, and they had food, they had activities, people were playing sports out there. They also had big screens inside and outside, and we're hosting screenings and viewing parties throughout the Olympics out there. And on the day I went, the bronze medal fencing team was there. There was a huge drum line to welcome them to then sign autographs afterwards. I thought they did a great job engaging the fans this way by bringing the athletes out, the medalists out, to then meet the fans and really making them feel like they were a part of the games. And then the medals were out there, so it was really cool to see them up close in the displays. And as you may know, each medal has a piece of the Eiffel Tower as a part of it. Being able to see it was definitely one of the highlights for me, seeing how they presented the games to the public.
Offensive. Il a fallu avoir pour venir pour l'animation. Parce qu'en fait, Thibaut, un peu leur papa sur cet événement. Thibaut, dis bonjour. Thibaut.
So August 2nd was a pretty busy day. This was day 7 of the Olympics. I started that morning at Paris La Défense Arena for swimming. So that morning, the various heats were swam for final qualifications. Among those were men's 100-meter butterfly, women's 200-meter medley, the women's 800-meter freestyle, which Katie Ledecky swam in.
Lane 4, United States of America, Katie Ledecky.
And then there was the mixed 4x100 medley relay. That one was interesting for me because I'm not sure when that started, but for me it was the first time to see men and women on a team swimming relays together, and I thought that was really, really awesome. The Americans were well represented in the stands, in the audience. They were really loud, especially for Katie Ledecky, the GOAT. She won her heat. Not surprisingly, she had the fastest time going into the finals. Swimming is just one of those big marquee events here, and so I was really glad to be able to see it because tickets are really hard to come by, especially the medal rounds. And the venue itself is really close to the La Défense Arch, which is the huge modern arch that's all the way down the line from the Arc de Triomphe. And so kind of a stunning background when you're standing there and seeing it off in the distance. So after swimming, I went out to Place de la Concorde, which was the urban project. This was the area where they had 3-on-3 basketball, skateboarding, BMX freestyle, and the introduction of breaking for the first time at the Olympic Games. I didn't have tickets for any of those events, but you could hang out in this area and just kind of check out the facilities and just see the space. One of the cool things was skateboarders were having an open session, practicing, doing runs and such, and so they let people in just to sit and hang out. So I did that, was able to take advantage of the fact that these stands had such a high vantage point. You can see Eiffel Tower, the obelisk for Place de la Concorde, and then over here is Grand Palais. And then across the Seine, you can actually see Invalides back here. So it is a great spot just to hang out. There's probably not gonna be another time we can get this kind of view from this area. There's some buildings on Rivoli, but even then, this is pretty cool. And then just looking straight down the Champs-Élysées, which is really neat, really cool to have that vantage point in Paris because of the Olympics. So after Place de la Concorde, I went back up to Stade de France for track and field, which was athletics. I took line 14. It was the new extension of it out to Saint-Denis-Pleyel. Incredible station, super modern, really cool walking from that line out to the stadium. This is part of the plan for extending the line out there for the Olympics and also for the community, for that area of the city, and it was really great. It was an evening session, so the sun was setting at Stade de France, which created this gorgeous sunset. It was a busy evening. On the men's side, you had the men's shot put, and then the decathlon was going on. And for them, they were doing the high jump, and they were also doing the 400-meter run later that evening. And then on the women's side, they had the 5K, the triple jump, the 800-meter run, and they also had discus being thrown. One of the really cool things was there was a couple of people around me who had loved ones and friends competing that evening. One gentleman was from the US, his wife was competing for Lithuania for discus. A young lady who was next to me, she had a friend who was running one of the heats for Australia for the 800-meter run. The evening was capped off with the first medal event inside of Stade de France for athletics. This was the men's 10,000-meter run. So 10,000 meters is about 25 laps around the track. Overall, it was a really fast pace. The first 13 finishers all beat the Olympic record. The favorite in the event was Uganda's Joshua Cheptegei. He is the world record holder for the 5,000 and 10,000 meter run, and he's unbelievable. He won the race, wasn't really challenged at the end there, but the most surprising finish of the night belonged to America's Grant Fisher. He was only the second American in 56 years to medal in this distance, which tells you a lot about how difficult of a distance it's been historically for the US. Then Grant took this victory lap around the stadium, and the crowd was just cheering him on. It's just one of those moments where you've watched it on TV, these Olympic moments where the athlete is just like carrying the American flag and they have that look on their face, this pure joy. And you could feel it, and I got a bit emotional seeing him going around that track. Yet I Will Survive playing in the background. And Grant Fisher for the US. That was an amazing finish. That was one of the best things I've experienced so far here at the Games, and congrats to Fish. That was great, and it was incredible to watch. It was probably my favorite moment at the Olympics overall, just because it was so unexpected. And then leaving the stadium that night, it was just so fun. Music was blaring, and it just felt like you were walking on air, walking out of that stadium that night. So on August 3rd, day 8 of the Olympics, I went down to watch third round play for men's golf at Le Golf National. And so this was in Saint-Quentin-en-Yvelines, which was down south. I took the metro, and then they had a bunch of buses for all the people who were attending the golf course. Rory McIlroy was paired up with Jason Day that day.
Let's go, Rory!
So I followed them around for a little bit, and then I got to see Xander Schauffele and Scotty Scheffler from the University of Texas where I went, which he's a Longhorn legend. It was fun following them around, and then France, they went crazy every time. Victor Perez. And Victor Perez did really well at the tournament as well. Overall, the course was really great, really beautiful. They had hosted the Ryder Cup in 2018 there. John Rahm and Xander Schauffele were the leaders by the end of that day. USA! So just ended day 3 here for men's golf at Le Golf National. And there's some reporters back here from different countries reporting. At the moment, the players just had some interviews back here. And so it was a gorgeous day out here, cloudy, overcast, so it shaded everyone from the sun. I talked to some people who were shooting photographs for the event, and they were telling me how hot it was earlier, and the guys who were running cameras as well, so they definitely appreciated having the great weather out here. It was really, really fun out here to get to see Rory, Jason Day, Scotty Scheffler. And Scotty Scheffler went on to win gold. And he was pretty emotional when he won gold later on, which was really, really cool to see him talk about playing for your country and just how different it was. And it was interesting also to see how far golf has been elevated in the minds of a lot of the players as an event to participate in. So you're getting these bigger names who are playing in the Olympics and seeing how different and how emotional it is playing for your country. One of the interesting things when I was there was a woman who called me out because I was wearing a USA shirt. I was like, you sound like an American. And she was the first American volunteer that I had seen out there volunteering. Her name was Erica. She was from Detroit. And her husband, who's French, and her kids had decided to go to Brittany to leave Paris during the Olympics, like a lot of Parisians were doing. And she decided to stay back and volunteer because she was a big sports fan, which is really cool. And so we just hung out for a little bit, talked about the Olympics, her experience volunteering, because I had talked to other volunteers at other places and realized they were from like other countries. And so she was telling me, you know, there's like 40,000, 45,000 volunteers during the Olympics, and a lot of them come in from other places and took vacations to do this, which I thought was really great because for me, the volunteers at the Olympics were kind of like the glue. They made everything so much more enjoyable, had such a positive attitude, made everything really fun, and just were super helpful. One of the things that I really liked about the volunteers was their outfits. And I actually told her I went to Decathlon, the store, to see if I could actually buy some of the gear that they were wearing, and which they weren't selling.
C'est signé Decathlon, mais c'est impossible à trouver en magasin parce que ce n'est pas commercialisé.
Pourquoi est-ce que c'est pas commercialisé?
Pour plusieurs raisons. N'importe qui en fait pourrait porter les tenues des bénévoles et potentiellement ça serait la confusion dans les rues et aux abords des sites. Et aussi c'est cette logique de créer de la rareté, c'est le marketing de la rareté. Et donc plus l'offre est rare, plus on en a envie.
What was interesting was she told me a lot of people were selling parts of their outfits online.
Oui, c'est ça. En fait, ça a créé un engouement sur les plateformes de revente où les bénévoles vendent leurs tenues donc sur Vinted, Le Bon Coin ou eBay. Donc, on peut compter jusqu'à 5 000 € pour acquérir la tenue complète.
Mon Dieu, c'est cher.
And the hat was fetching 300 euros on the second-hand market, like on the Craigslist here.
Et la star incontestée de ces sites de revente,
le bob, hein?
c'est le bob. C'est le bob rose, vert et jaune qui se revend facilement 400 €.
Alors pourquoi le bob?
Parce qu'il est unique, en fait, il a un graphique assez spécial et finalement, c'est un peu l'accessoire que vous pouvez remettre assez facilement plutôt que la marinière turquoise.
I told her that reminded me of the Salt Lake City Games where those Roots hats were like the craze and everyone was trying to get one.
You know, at every Olympics, a must-have souvenir arises. This year, it's the hat. The blue Olympic beret made by the Canadian apparel company Roots. It's created nothing short of a pop culture phenomenon. Americans stand in line for hours, many walking away empty-handed to get just one of those hip hats. The beret retails, by the way, for $19.95, but some enterprising buyers have come out of the store and offered theirs for $100.
And then when I actually got back to Paris that evening, I hung out on the left bank at Saint-Germain, and it was just really fun seeing every bistro, every bar, they had a TV up. And wherever you walked, you just saw the Olympics playing. And it just felt like the entire place was a big watch party. About a week into it, there were articles coming out about how Parisians, people who had left Paris, were now having FOMO about missing out because the Olympics ended up being really cool.
Je redécouvre la ville et c'est extraordinaire. Si je puis me permettre, sans les Parisiens grincheux.
C'est bien, c'est surprenant. J'avoue, on s'attendait un peu à tout, mais pas vraiment à ça. C'est une belle énergie, toute la ville est en fusion par ce moment, une vraie effervescence, donc ouais, ça fait plaisir de vivre ça à Paris.
Et c'est vraiment un grand moment, une grande fête.
Bonjour, que pensez-vous de l'ambiance des Jeux?
That was a great memory to be able to be out with the crowds, just in the public in general, and just seeing the mood. And it was just like a great atmosphere during this time. So on August 4th, day 9 of the Olympics, kicked off the final week by going to watch hockey. I think most of us know it as field hockey. And this took place at Yves-du-Manoir Stadium, which is in Cologne in Paris. The cool thing about the stadium that I learned was 100 years ago, it was the host site of the Olympic Games.
While it's been renovated over the years, the original steel beams
survived the years,
and this stadium are still being used for field hockey during the 2024 Summer Olympics.
And also the film Chariots of Fire, those races took place here at this stadium as well. The stadium itself was really cool, had a blue field, blue turf, reminded me of Boise State. And there was 2 matches on this day. India played Great Britain, and then Spain played Belgium. The first match was pretty intense, close throughout. India took the lead first, Great Britain tied it, and then India went down a man with a red card. India played down a man the entire second half and just ran that clock out to force the penalties. They pulled it off. They went crazy. Their fans went crazy. Their fans were really fun. I talked to them afterwards and I was like, you guys really brought that energy, and they were laughing about it. And then in Spain's game, it went down to a final possession with no time left. Right now, Spain just beat Belgium in kind of a crazy finish. Time ran out, they celebrated. The referees called a penalty, so then Belgium had one more take at it. And they missed, and then Spain just celebrated right on the field. They were going crazy. First time watching hockey and talked to some people here about it, and so really fun sport to watch. Action-packed, 15-minute quarters. Had a great time here. The ambience was great. Funny thing was, before that match, I actually went to a boulangerie in the morning to try to find some food to bring into the match. And at this one place, they had a cookie croissant, which was the first time I had seen one just anywhere I'd gone to. And the cookie croissant kind of became like this viral thing.
C'est devenu viral sur TikTok et tout le monde, absolument tout le monde veut goûter le croquis. On est passé de 100 à 150, à 1000, 1200, 1800 par jour. C'est le truc, il faut se filmer avec le croquis.
Ça sent hyper bon.
On a le croustillant du feuilletage, on a le moelleux de la pâte à cookies mi-cuite à l'intérieur.
It's kind of like the cronut from years ago in New York at Dominique Anzel's bakery.
Le premier parfum du cronut, c'était la vanille rose. C'était uniquement pour la fête des mères, on l'avait lancé juste pour le week-end, vendredi, samedi, dimanche. Et j'en ai fait une quarantaine le premier jour. Et on a tout vendu en quelques minutes. Donc il y a un blogueur qui est venu et qui a pris une petite photo. À l'époque, il n'y avait pas encore vraiment de réseaux sociaux. Au bout du troisième jour, il y avait plus de 150 personnes qui faisaient la queue. Et là, c'est devenu vraiment la folie.
The thing with this thing was, it looked horrible. But I was curious, so I bought one and I took it to the match. I started eating this thing and it tasted just like it looked. It was pretty awful. It just didn't work. The croissant dough didn't rise, so it just became this thick, putty-like substance. But I couldn't help myself, and I was just like, I didn't want to waste food. So I just kept eating bits of it and parts of it throughout both matches. And I was on a struggle bus with this thing. It's kind of like Homer Simpson eating that hoagie, that large hoagie in that one episode that ended up spoiling. He couldn't help himself. And by the end of the second match, I finished the thing. Partly regretting it. I took it really easy on Sunday, recovering from this cookie croissant and then getting ready for the rest of the week. So on August the 5th, day 10 of the Olympics, I came out here to Point Alexander III to watch the triathlon medley relay. The race started at 8 o'clock in the morning and it was already super packed out here in the streets. And so I planned on going to Point Invalides to watch the swimming portion of it, but the police had blocked it off because there was just too many people. So the medley was basically, there was 4 people in each team, 2 men, 2 women. Each person had to do a triathlon sprint, basically. And that consisted of a 300-meter swim, a bike ride, which was basically 2 loops on the course, and then a 1.8 kilometer run, which was also 2 loops. So after each person finished their try, they would tag their teammate and the next person would go. I eventually made my way from the right bank over to the left bank on this side to see the finish over at the bridge. And there was just a ton of people out here standing on whatever they could just to try to catch a glimpse of the race. It was quite a scene out here. And then by the end, Germany won, and then Great Britain and the US had a photo finish where they declared Great Britain silver medalist, and so they had their medal ceremony. What was crazy was after the medal ceremony later on that day, they actually said Team USA got silver. So Team USA ended up with silver, Great Britain bronze. But in the end, it was just really competitive, and both teams were basically neck and neck. So fun to watch, fun to be out here to see it. Great atmosphere, crazy crowd. So then after the triathlon relay, I went to Park of Champions. And Park of Champions was held at Trocadero at the plaza there, which was the same space where the opening ceremony took place. And so there was a huge stage set up over there for fans. The really great thing about this was that they celebrated the athletes. For them to be recognized that way, I thought was great. And it was so amazingly pulled off, especially with the Eiffel Tower in the background like that. On this particular day, Novak Djokovic came out and people went nuts. And he gave this really heartfelt speech about the emotions that he felt winning this gold medal.
I carried the Serbian flag in the opening ceremony in 2012 London, and I thought that's the best feeling that an athlete could experience until yesterday when I won the gold.
And considering that this guy is arguably the greatest tennis player ever, to say that this gold medal was the apex of his career said a lot about how far tennis has gone at the Olympics and just what that meant. And so it was a great speech. I think for a lot of tennis fans, he has been kind of like a heel. And I think later on in his career, I think people have recognized that he's got a great sense of humor.
I personally wanted to go and watch all the sports. They didn't have tickets for me, so well done, guys.
And a lot of times what has, I think, turned people off from him is that he's just been relentless in winning. And it was great to see him show that kind of emotion. And obviously he speaks French really well. And so the crowd loved that. And then later on, Teddy Riner and the judo team came out, which, to the delight of that French crowd, they went absolutely crazy for him and the team. And they did not disappoint. They were just celebrating and dancing and just having a great time there at Park of Champions. So that was really fun. And then later on, all the medalists for rowing came out. It was just a big dance party for all those medalists, really fun, and the crowd just participating in that. And then in the evening, they turned it into a huge watch party, which was just beautiful. Lighting, I was just like, I would love to watch college football this way because it was just so cool. And then people were just hanging out at the park itself. And then one of the neat things was Pointe-Diana, the bridge that connects to the other side, was blocked off for exiters from Park of Champions. So when you left, you had it to yourself basically, and they didn't let other people come from the other side, which is really great for people who were there, and they were able to enjoy Pointe-Diana in that way. And then later on that evening, I went out to the Seine here where the flame, the balloon, was floating over the river over here at the Jardin de Tuileries. It just created this really serene, surreal atmosphere out in the river. People were just hanging out, and you're just watching this flame floating above like a little moon in a way. A lot of people just hanging out on the lawn, having a picnic late at night. It would rise around 10 p.m. and stay up there until 2 a.m. But it was just a gorgeous night, clear evening, and people were just enjoying themselves, and definitely one of the more memorable experiences here at the Olympics. So on August the 6th, day 11 of the Olympics, I went back down south to South Paris Arena for volleyball that morning. The match that morning was between China and Turkey. China, great team, heavily favored, I believe. And I actually was invited by Melissa and Craig. Melissa and Craig had seen the videos online and invited me out to watch volleyball with their families. It was really great seats. We were like third row up from courtside, so the view was unbelievable. It just felt like you were right there next to the players watching. It was just a really great gesture on their part to invite me to join them and watch this match. The match was really competitive. It went 5 sets. The difference was Melissa Vargas. She was unbelievable for Turkey. Every time they set her up, you just felt like China did not have an answer for her. I think she accounted for more than half their points or most of their points. Unbelievable individual performance for Team Turkey. And then in the end, 5th set, Turkey had a really heady play, not setting up for the spike. And that was the end of the match. A lot of disappointed China fans. But the fans there had a great appearance, really cheered on their team, really cheered on their country. The Turkey fans, obviously, were very, very, very happy. They were excited. It was a great morning there at South Paris Arena. It was really impressive watching it in person. And then some of those rallies were just unbelievable to watch.
That's great.
So after volleyball, I actually took a break and then came right back to South Paris Arena later that evening for what Anthony Edwards from Team USA called his favorite situation, the table tennis situation. So I came right back for table tennis that evening. There were 2 matches going on. On the women's side, we had Thailand against Japan, and then on the men's side, we had Sweden against Germany. And the way this worked was they first played doubles, an entire match, and the winner of that match got a point. And then they broke it up into individual play, so one-on-one, and so the winner of that match got a point. So then that accumulated into the team score. So once a team got 3 total points, they won the overall match. So individually, they would keep playing until someone got 3 points. Japan didn't have a tough time against Thailand at all. Sweden was doing really well against Germany. And it was at this point in the match where I saw an article pop up on my phone, and it was about this Chinese restaurant near South Paris Arena that had become an unofficial headquarters for table tennis teams and fans during the Olympics. So people were coming to this restaurant to eat and meet up. The funny thing about this article was the fact that they only had 1 server, which is kind of typical of these small restaurants here in Paris. And the server took a month-long vacation during the entire Olympic Games. So the owner had to recruit his 2 daughters. And so the 2 kids ended up helping the dad serve the customers. And the owner talked about how busy he was, but at the same time, how he was just meeting people from all over the world. He was a table tennis fan. So I bailed out a little early during the Sweden-Germany match to see if I could catch them for a late dinner. And I got there 30 minutes before they said it would close on Google. But as I showed up, I saw the kids sitting at the table with what looked like the staff. It was just kind of funny that evening just to see that article, run over there, and they were closed. Well-deserved dinner, I would imagine so. So it was just a really charming piece about daily life here in Paris and how the games brought the world to this one restaurant, and for this owner to become kind of like a celebrity here in Paris during the table tennis events. So on August the 7th, day 12 of the Olympics, I went back up to the Aquatics Center for diving.
From the United States of America, Sarah Baker.
It was women's 3-meter springboard. And for this preliminary round, the top 18 would advance to the finals. So scoring for diving, I had no idea. But after watching for a while, it was kind of like perceptual learning. You kind of saw what they were trying to do, because they would tell the audience what kind of dive they were performing. And then once you saw enough scores from the judges, you kind of felt like you could tell, okay, this would be a 6 or a 7. Or an 8, 8.5, which was the highest score. And with perceptual learning, I read about this case. It's kind of a famous case in Japan where these people were trying to figure out the sex of a baby chick. There's no like defining features between the two. And these people would spend years trying to guess what the sex of a baby chick was. And they would just guess at first. And then over time, they developed like this sixth sense of what the sex was. But the thing was, they couldn't explain it to anybody. And it was only through feel. So it's kind of a funny case example of perceptual learning. But at the same time, after spending some time there, you kind of felt out, oh, that was definitely a 4 or a 5, or that was definitely an 8, 8.5. It's kind of fun trying to figure it out, but at the same time, kind of funny. And for America, Sarah Bacon placed 19th, so she ended up being a reservist for the finals in case someone were to drop out. And then by the end of the preliminaries, Chen Yai-wen from China, she completely dominated the field and led going into the finals. So on August the 8th, day 13 of the Olympics, I went out to Champ-de-Mars Arena to watch wrestling. It was Greco and freestyle, and I didn't know the difference between the two, but my seatmate was from the US, and her name was Laura, and it was great because all 3 of her kids wrestled, and she had volunteered, spent time with Team USA. She gave me a lot of tips, a lot of information, a lot of inside baseball. And the difference between Greco and freestyle is with Greco, all the grappling has to occur waist up. Whereas in freestyle, you could attack below the waist, use your legs, attack the legs, and score that way. So I really want to thank Laura from Missouri for explaining that. She preferred freestyle, just for the record. And so she gave me the lowdown on Team USA. And on that day, we had Spencer Lee. He had won an NCAA championship with a torn ACL, or no ACL, which was pretty remarkable to me.
Your winner on that A from the United States of America, Spencer Lee. Woo, Spencer!
We also had Aaron Brooks. He was a 4-time NCAA champion, which is crazy to me, to be able to win 4 throughout your whole career.
Your winner on that C from the United States of America, Aaron Brooks.
We had Helen Madulis, but she was the first gold medalist for women's wrestling.
Your winner on that B from the United States of America, Helen Marulis.
And then we had Miles Amin. He wrestled at Michigan, And what was interesting about him was he wrestled under a flag that I had never seen before. It was SMR. And SMR was San Marino. I had never heard of San Marino in my life. I had to look it up. It is a microstate in Italy, the 5th smallest country in the world. I think everyone in San Marino showed up for his matches, so it was pretty great to see. There was one couple who had their baby and they were like tossing the baby up and down. That was fun to watch.
On that scene from San Marino, Miles Amin.
It was all qualifying rounds. They all did really well that day. Wrestling was really fun. There was a ton of activity going on, 3 matches going on. It was just constant match after match. And some of those matches, when you watched it, they had nothing left in the tank after their matches. So seeing that level of competition was pretty great. So during that time, the chocolate muffin at the Olympic Games had gone viral. Henrik Christensen, the swimmer from Norway, had made it go viral by talking about how great it was, and all these copycat recipes were popping up online as well, and people were just talking about it.
I saw videos of them and I was so obsessed. They looked so delicious and I was trying to figure out how to recreate them at home.
So I actually went and got one to have afterwards to try it out and see how it was. I'll be honest, I saw this on the first couple of days I was here, and I was like, the first thing I thought of when I saw it was like Otis Spunkmeyer. I actually saw this muffin early on, first, second day of the Olympics, and I just didn't really want a muffin at a game. Typically, it's like a breakfast item usually. All right, so it's out of the packaging, chocolate chunks, it's good color. All right, so here's the muffin. This thing is so rich. I need a coffee. Okay. So if you like chocolate, this will be right up your alley. I don't want to talk with my mouth full. So what's good about it is it's really moist. And a lot of times muffins are just really crumbling. I could definitely eat this for breakfast. So surprised, I ended up finishing this thing because it was actually not that sweet. So pretty good. For what it is, I think it's really good. As a processed food item. So on August 9th, day 14 of the Olympics, I came here to Grand Palais for Taekwondo. It was definitely one of my top venues that I wanted to see while here at the Olympics. Grand Palais was built for the World's Fair, and it's a huge exhibition hall. They spent nearly 500 euros renovating it for the past few years for future exhibitions, future events, and also for the Olympic Games. And a lot of people saw the photos and the videos from fencing that kind of went viral because it was just an amazing, amazing space. So for Taekwondo, it was my first time watching it. I didn't really know the rules, so I kind of got familiar. They explained it at the match itself. For Olympics Taekwondo, it's a more simplified version. They use less moves than the traditional Taekwondo. And so you score points by kicking and punching to the head or the torso. The more complicated the move, like a spin kick to the head, you get more points for it. So it varies from 1 to 4 to possibly 5. And you can also get penalized, and your opponent will get a point for certain penalties. Taekwondo is 3 rounds. Each round is 2 minutes long, and if you win that round, then you get a point. If you win 2 rounds, then you win the match. For the Americans, CJ Nicholas fought Firas Katoussi from Tunisia. Really hard-fought bout. he ended up losing literally at the last second when FOMO scored in the second round. There was just great sportsmanship at the end. You could tell CJ was just heartbroken. And then FOMO's side lifted his arms to show that he had fought well. It was a great display of sportsmanship during the competition. There were a lot of great bouts. It's really action-packed. And so really enjoyed it, really enjoyed the venue itself. Crazy how they built the bleachers to go up so high. It was just really reimagined for the games in a way that was pretty original and pretty breathtaking at the same time. If you've never seen it, you should catch L'Impératrice, the band, their concert here at Grand Palais through Arte, A-R-T-E, their channel. It's definitely one of the coolest concert videos I've ever seen. It is so well shot, it's so well done, and it's just awesome. And Grand Palais will reopen to the public in 2025, so if you get a chance then, come and check it out. It was an absolute treat to be able to see this space in this way, to be able to watch a competition there, and it just was really cool. Great experience here at Grand Palais. So on August 10th, day 15 of the Olympics, I went down to Versailles for modern pentathlon. It was a women's semifinal round, and so they had two sessions, one in the morning and the afternoon, and the top qualifiers from those two sessions went on to the finals the next day. There was a bit of a challenge getting out there because they had the metro, but then the bus lines were stopped because the men's marathon was being run that day. And then the marathon for all, for the public, was being run that evening. So they blocked off the roads. And so the buses weren't taking people. So it was about, I'd say, 45 minutes to an hour to walk to the venue and then back again. It was my first time watching modern pentathlon. It consists of 5 events. The first one is show jumping, and so they would deduct points depending on how many gates were knocked down, or they would penalize based on time.
And for jumping this out there, no time penalties, 7 jumping penalties, a score of 293.
The second event was fencing. And that was interesting because they had like this blow-up contraption. It looked like a bounce house setting up fencing on the side. And so what they did was the lowest ranked person had to start, and they would have to keep defeating the next ranked person. So if they survived, they would keep fencing until they were knocked out. The highest ranked person was at the very end. And so the lower your rank, the more people you have to fence to then gain position. The third event was swimming, and they had a pool built out there. For the most part, everyone had to watch on the screens because it was kind of far from the stands.
So at the 15 metres stage, we can see the athletes are still buzzing out of the ball. It's pretty close, it has to be said. It looks like in lane 6, someone soon.
So the fourth and fifth event were combined, and it was called a laser run. You'd have to run a lap, and then you would have to then shoot and hit your target 5 times. If you missed, you have to keep shooting until you hit it 5 times, and then you would run another lap. And this continued on for 5 total laps. The combination of it all was really interesting to me. The site, of course, Versailles, was pretty amazing. It was also where the equestrian events happened. Overall, it was one of the top 3 venues that I really looked forward to when I bought tickets early on. And then during lunchtime, when they broke between the 2 sessions, everyone just basically had a picnic al fresco outside. So for me, that was a pretty memorable scene, just seeing everyone hanging out, having lunch under the canopy of trees out at Versailles for lunch during the 2 sessions. So then later that evening, I went back to Rafa Nadal's house, Roland Garros, to watch boxing at night. The event started pretty late. I think it was like 9:30. They closed the roof and they had the lights on for boxing. And one ring in center court, really cool setup. I was up in the nosebleeds with my seats, but still fun. There were a lot of medal matches that night, and so I stuck around for a few of them.
In red from Uzbekistan.
One of the more entertaining bouts of the night was Yuting Liu. And her fans, they were just having a party up in the rafters. It was really fun watching them, especially when she won a gold medal. And then seeing her get emotional for her medal ceremony and her fans up in the stands was a really memorable experience there at Roland Garros. I decided to leave a little early because I wanted to get back down for the Marathon for All. That started at 9 p.m. around the same time boxing did. But at midnight, the 10K for the Marathon for All started. And so you just heard a sea of people cheering on all the runners that were coming through. It was the first time that they let the public run the actual marathon course at the games. And then to allow for a lot more people to run this 10K, I thought was a really cool thing. I tried to sign up for it, but I didn't make the cut. But it was fine because at this point, I think I had walked nearly 200 miles and developed like this ginormous blister on my toe. So I probably wouldn't have enjoyed running that 10K if I had the opportunity to.
So right now the Marathon for All is happening. This is a far cry from that first day when I was here with the QR code and everything was empty here. So
the route came up along Place du Carousel. And so you saw the flame, the balloon floating above. And so the runners were kind of taking their time and taking photos of it as they were running across. And that was just a really memorable scene, seeing them running across. And then right behind you was the Louvre and the pyramid.
it's definitely been a successful Olympic Games and people are enjoying it. And so it is quite the scene. So it's great to see.
So the Marathon for All I thought was a great success. When they brought up this idea years ago, I thought, what a cool idea. And so for me, it really cemented this idea of the games being for all people by letting the general public be a part of the games. And it being the final night before the final day of the Olympics, I don't think a lot of people got that much rest that night in Paris. So on August 11th, the final day of the Olympics, day 16, I went out to Invalides for the women's marathon. It was a beautiful morning. There are lots of people out there supporting their country, supporting their athletes. So it was a great atmosphere. The most significant thing was the fact that the women's marathon was closing out the athletics competition for the first time. Typically, the men's marathon is the final event. But this year, for the first time, men and women both had the same amount of participants and competitors. And so they wanted to highlight that by having the women's marathon close out the games. A lot of people talked about how grueling this course was, and Sifan Hassan of the Netherlands won gold for her country. She's only the second person in history to pull off one of the most difficult, impossible feats, and that's being able to medal in the 5,000, 10,000, and the marathon. Only one person before her had even done it, and that was Emil Zapotek from Czechoslovakia, from the Czech Republic. She actually nicknamed this project after him. The crazy thing about what he did was he won gold in all his events, but he decided to run the marathon in the last minute. And so he's a legend. He's got an amazing story himself. He was beloved in his country, did remarkable things.
In the early 1950s, a young Czech army captain developed a training method that would change running forever.
And was stripped of a lot of that by the changing regimes, the changing country.
But he wasn't just a committed athlete. When his country was invaded, he made a personal stand. This dedication to ideals, combined with his training method, won him 3 Olympic gold medals in 1 week. A record which even today remains unbroken.
My name is Emil Zapotek.
And then later on in his life, a lot of it was redeemed, and he was recognized again for all that he did for running and for the Czech Republic. So the women's marathon was a great event, really memorable for the fact that Hassan was able to accomplish that feat of medaling in the 5,000, 10,000 in the marathon in the end. So after the women's marathon, I made my way out to Bercy Arena for the women's gold medal match in basketball between Team USA and France. This was a hotly contested matchup. It was pretty ugly. In the first half, I have to say, I think France, they really mucked it up. It looked like the Knicks Rockets NBA Finals from 1994. It was tied at the half. I think it was only 20-something points.
The score, it's all tied up. France 25, USA 25.
And Team USA, they were just off their game. So many turnovers, so many unforced errors. They just were not in sync. In the second half, France put up a double-digit lead. The US came back, tied it up again. And for me, I thought Kelsey Plum really steadied the ship for Team USA. Her teammate, Jackie Young, was just having one of those days where things were just not going right for her. And so by the end of it, we had that crazy ending where we hit the free throw, we're up by 3. France comes back down, they toss up a Hail Mary, banks it off the backboard, and I thought they tied the game, and the crowd went crazy. I started looking down at the bench at Team USA, and they started celebrating. And then I was like, was it a 2? Looked at the replay. After the replay, everyone in the arena, you could just hear the air being let out.
The end of 4, your final score, France 66, Team USA 67.
and they were so disappointed by that. And that was a heartbreaking way for France to lose that game because they played so hard. But in the end, Team USA won their 8th straight gold medal. Absolutely a dynasty. It's really impressive for anyone, for any country to win anything 8 straight in a row. And so, if anything, the game's really grown. I think worldwide, other nations have caught up. But it was a testament to Team USA for them to hang in there, pull it off, and still win the gold medal. Everyone was in a great mood. A lot of players just dripping the flag around them and having a great time. And that was just a great scene. The medal ceremony afterwards was great. It was something that I wanted to witness in person. And so being able to be at that match and seeing the flag go up and hearing the anthem, it was just incredible. It definitely was one of the lasting memories for me of the Olympic Games.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're able, please stand for the anthem of the United States of America.
Mesdames et messieurs, les médaillés olympiques.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Olympic medalists.
So after Team USA wrapped up their gold medal, I made my way back up to Stade de France one last time for the closing ceremony. So it was a really fun atmosphere. You really did feel like the entire world was there at Stade de France. It is pretty fun seeing all the different countries represented out here. A lot of people wearing their flags and also shirts with their country on them. They gave everyone LED wristbands. They were passing out these wristbands. And so you figured there was going to be a light show at some point during the evening. I ended up sitting pretty much like second to last row in the stadium, which I thought actually gave me a really good vantage point, so I really liked it. The ceremony began with the Parade of Nations, so all the flag bearers came in, and then the athletes from each country paraded in, creating like a striation of colors of different nations, and that was visually stunning to see as well. Just the amount of people, amount of humanity out on the field, out in the stadium. They followed that up with the medal ceremony for the women's marathon.
Olympic champion,
It was a beautiful ceremony. The way they set it up with all the colors and then the Olympic box for President Macron and Thomas Bach and all the delegates, dignitaries from other nations, it looked like something out of Star Wars. Really cool scene with the sunset. And then it went into the light show with the LED bracelets. The animation for this was pretty impressive. I was sitting there trying to figure out if they were geolocating the position of the person by seat to then create the animations. The whole mood of the animation and this portion of it felt like something out of Metroid or Zelda, the sound design. And then you saw the reveal of this golden figure. It was pretty small from my perspective, but I looked up and I was like, is that somebody in gold coming down from the top? And indeed it was. The descent took a while. I probably could have started on my taxes during that time because it was taking forever, but it was dramatic for drama's sake. And then the other part that was just kind of bananas for me was when the animation finished. And then they had all the different actors dropping down from the top of the roof.
Oh my God.
That was incredible. So then there was the performance of putting the rings together, creating the rings. I know it was pretty abstract. Understanding that the stage was made in the shapes of the continents of the world, I didn't really put it together until later because from my vantage point, I didn't see that perspective. But knowing how many actors and actresses were out there performing, it was pretty ridiculous. I think they had several thousand people out on the stages creating this scene. Then you had H.E.R, you had Phoenix, you had Angèle come out, and there's some other acts. I honestly was hoping for Daft Punk to come out. That would have melted Paris, in my opinion, if they had come back out for a reunion. But that didn't happen. But Phoenix was great. I've seen him several times, and so it was a fun show. And then the athletes, they were having a great time. They had their own party going on. They were breakdancing on one side of the stadium and everyone was just having a great time watching them. I don't know if it showed up on TV or not, but that was really fun to see. And then we had the passing of the Olympic flag from Paris to LA, from Anne Hidalgo to Karen Bass, both who are the first women mayors of their respective cities. And then H.E.R, she sang the Star-Spangled Banner, which was something I didn't expect. I didn't expect to hear America's national anthem at Stade de France that night. That was a really nice moment, really glad that happened there. And then as rumored, Tom Cruise, he showed up, rappelled from the top of the stadium all the way down. It was pretty quick when he did it, so pretty impressive at his age. One of my friends was like, he should have came via the balloon and jumped off of that, which I think would have been pretty amazing if they pulled that off. But he came down, got the flag, got on the motorcycle, and went off. And then they went to the film portion in LA. And a lot of people were hoping that Billie Eilish, Snoop Dogg, Red Hot Chili Peppers, whoever the acts were gonna be there in Paris at Stade de France. But it was a performance in California, and it kind of killed the mood. It looked tape delayed, or it looked taped. And so they were pumping in crowd noise to kind of keep the energy up, but people were kind of zoned out at that point. I think people were going to use the bathroom as well. You also had Léon Marchand bringing the flame to the stadium and then extinguishing it with that group of athletes representing the different areas of the world, which is really nice. And naturally, there was a chanting of Léon when he came in. he skyrocketed and became a huge superstar here during the games with his amazing performance. Thomas Bach did something where he, at the end of his speech, he said, "That's it."
We celebrate with all of us the games of the 34th Olympiad. That's it.
And a lot of people took that to mean that the ceremony was over. So people started emptying out, which is really unfortunate, in my opinion, when he did that, because people didn't know that there was still more left. So by the time the final performance came on, there was this woman dressed in black. It looked like she was in funeral attire, and then she started singing My Way. When she started singing it, it was pretty unexpected because it's such an American song. It's Sinatra, and so I didn't think that would be the song that they would choose to end the Olympics here in Paris. But I remember a few years ago, I went down this wormhole and remembered that this song was actually originally French, but the lyrics were totally different. It was about going through the motions of a fledgling marriage. And it was rewritten for Sinatra to be this anthemic, looking back kind of anthem. And so I thought maybe it was a bridge for the Olympic Games going from Paris to LA. In any case, I was trying to figure out who the singer was because I was like, she didn't really have a French accent when she was singing in English, which was really impressive. Later on, I found out it was XXXIII. Everyone in the crowd was just stunned by this performance. And then you had this amazing fireworks show after that that felt so surreal. That was an amazing, amazing way to end the games. So for me, it was a great privilege to be able to attend these games in person, fulfilled a dream I had when I was a kid. And also, one of the biggest motivators for me to learn French again after so many years was to attend these games and be able to interact with people, talk with people, and speak French to people and be understood, which is probably one of the hardest things. And so that was a really great, unique aspect of attending these games and being able to meet people from here and talk to them. And I have to give Paris its flowers, the people who put these games together, their flowers. It was undeniably, unbelievably, a once-in-a-lifetime chance to be able to experience the games this way. I grew up watching those Bud Greenspan Olympic films and being inspired by that work. And so being able to come here and experience it in person, seeing these athletes, seeing all these people live out their dreams is something that I will remember until the day I die. And it was funny, when I was in Lille, there was a guy with a cap, and on the side of it, he had a phrase stitched in it, and it's Je me reposerai quand je mourrai. I think that's what it was. But basically it was, I'll rest when I die. And so The games were that. There was a lot going on. You could have lived several lifetimes and not seen everything. I feel they had so much to offer, but there was something for everyone here. And that's what made it great. So there was a moment during the Olympics when Kevin Durant was asked about patriotism and playing for Team USA and playing for your country. And he had, I felt like, one of the most dialed in responses during these Olympics. And it was such a great quote. And he was just like, basically, there's a lot of BS that happens in our country, but there are also a lot of great people doing great things in our country. There was a lot of hesitancy, there was a lot of concerns and worries about these Olympic Games. The world is a very imperfect place. And so I felt like these games really exemplified the greatness of people, for them to be able to do what they did, to be able to bring people together, and just to be able to celebrate people from around the world. One of the most touching things for me was seeing the refugees, their boat during the opening ceremony, and being able to represent the Olympics as refugees. Because my family, we're literally boat people. I was born in a refugee camp myself, and to see the Olympic Games give these people that opportunity to compete and just to be human spoke a lot about the spirit of the Games.
And I think we are here telling a story through song at the Olympics with people who deserve that voice. And I'm nothing but grateful to have been a part of their story and to be writing our own here in Paris as well. It feels like when we met with the refugees, the refugee team after the performance we had yesterday at Club France, we could just see the twinkle in their eye. Obviously, they're really enjoying being at the Games, and I think that's really the kind of bubble of energy that's been created here in Paris, and it's the experience of a lifetime, to be honest.
And then for those of you who were able to attend the Games, I hope you had a great time. I hope some of this resonated with you. I'm sure you had an amazing experience yourself. And hopefully the Olympic Games in LA will be just as amazing in their own unique way. And with that, à bientôt. I'll see you soon.
Faire